Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? It is currently, let's see what time it is, 6:27 p.m. on this Tuesday evening. I am not going to my meeting tonight, and I have had kind of a crazy day. Not a crazy day, but like an ununiform day, so to speak. So last night, as you know, we went to a chili dinner at Caroline's. I got all my stuff done and wrapped up, and then I took an Uber over to Caroline's, and I was the first one to arrive, and Caroline made vegetarian cheese sauce with chips and salsa, which was absolutely delicious, and then she made me my own vegetarian chili. And then Mike made a big pot of chili for everybody else, because apparently Mike's chili is fantastic. And so I ate like right when I got there, because I knew we were going to Melissa and Jason's. And I wanted to be hungry when we went to Melissa's, because I didn't want her to like make all this food for us and then me not eat when I got to Melissa's. So I wanted to make sure that I was hungry. So I ate right when I got there. I had a bowl of chili. Caroline's vegetarian chili was delicious. It was cold and rainy last night, so they made a fire pit in the driveway. Alex's mom came, which was really fun, and Caroline's stepson and wife came, and Caroline's son and his girlfriend were there, and they dressed up as some kind of like anime characters. I don't know who they were, but anyway, and then Alex dressed up as the Lion King. He wore like a lion onesie, and he had like a crown on, and it was just fun. We had a good time. Caroline had this shirt on that had like little ghosties on it and stuff like that. And we stayed there. I got there about 5, and then we stayed there till about 7:15, 7:20. And then Alex and I drove over to Melissa's house. And it was Melissa and Jason, Alex and I, and Erin and her husband Eric. And Erin's daughter, Maddie, was there. And Maddie kind of, like, grew up, like, going to all of these chili dinners, like, from a very young age. And she's, like, I think she's, like, 20 now, 19 or 20. So it was really fun to see her, because we don't see her very often anymore. And she and Erin and Eric all wore matching skeleton hoodies. And Halloween 1978 was on in the background. And Melissa had made, you know, vegetarian chili for me, chili with no beans for Erin, and she had made bean dip, I think she had in the third crock pot thing. She has like this thing that's like 3 little crock pots, and then she made a big pot of regular chili for everybody else, and then she had all the fixings like sour cream. Caroline had all of that too. The only difference is Melissa had macaroni, and I couldn't remember, like when we were at Caroline's, I was like, what is missing from this chili? And then we got to Melissa's, I was like, oh, Caroline didn't have any like spaghetti or macaroni or anything for her chili, which I love in chili. So Melissa had a big pot of macaroni too. And so I had another bowl of chili there. It was very full. And then Erin made this like apple crisp stuff that was absolutely delicious with like, we each had like a scoop of ice cream on it. We were watching Halloween 1. Halloween 1 ended, and then we started watching Halloween H2O. They were doing like a Halloween marathon last night. So anyway, we didn't stay there for very long. On the way there, Alex stopped to pick up chips. Like, he bought like Frito-Lay chips to put in the chili and stuff. And because he asked Melissa, he was like, do you want us to bring anything? She was like, you can bring chips or something. So he brought chips, and I bought Powerball tickets. I did not win the Powerball. Very salty about that. The $1 billion Powerball, it's like $1.2 billion now, I think. And the next Powerball, I think, is on Saturday. So I did not win the Powerball. But anyway, yeah, we stayed there till about 10 o'clock, and I just like, after I ate, I just got so tired. I mean, I had a candy bar here and a candy bar there too. I stuffed my bag full of like little miniature well, Caroline actually had big candy bars too at her house. So I took like a Reese's, and then like a regular Hershey bar, and then like a Hershey bar with almonds, which I was just talking about in my review video, because I don't usually eat like nuts. I like peanut, I like Bridge Mix, but like to have a candy bar with nuts in it, I don't really like that typically. But something was appealing to me last night, like about the Hershey bar with almonds in it. I don't know why. It's still sitting on the counter. So we came home. I was in bed and asleep, you guys. I really wanted to make it last because Dragula came out at midnight last night. And so I was like, oh, I really want to stay up and I want to watch the newest episode of Dragula. And then I was going to stay up till midnight and when it came on, and then I was going to watch Dragula, and then I was going to go to sleep. Well, I was in that bed and I was so comfy cozy with Boo Radley, and Alex was playing on his like game on his phone. People ask all the time, they're like, what game does Alex plays Township on his phone. So he was playing on his phone and I was like out. I mean, I was like asleep, dead to the world. And so that was at like 10:15, 10:30. Probably 10:30 I was out. And I woke up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I like rolled over and I looked at the clock and it was like 2, and I was like, I wasn't like wide awake, but I was like awake. And so I went downstairs. This Art the Clown from the Terrifier movie, like I did the review the other day, and I did a review the other day of Halloween Town, and I was talking about Terrifier, or maybe it was on here, I don't know. And I think people were under the understanding that we saw Terrifier 2. I watched Terrifier 1 because I wanted to watch the first one before I watch, and it's actually, it goes All Hallows Eve, Terrifier 1, and Terrifier 2. I haven't watched All Hallows Eve yet, and I really want to because I want to watch the whole trilogy, but I have to tell you, that movie really scared the hell out of me. And it wasn't just because, like, people were saying it's like super gory. Yeah, it was super gory. I don't really have a hard time with super gory. Like, if it really bothers me, like, he saws a woman in half, like, it's a lot, okay? But like, if and I was like watching it like through my fingers, I just like, I don't love that kind of, you know, gratuitous violence. But it doesn't really bother me because in my head, and I'll even say it out loud, I'll be like, it's not real, like, this is not real, it's all just special effects. And and I'm not scared of clowns. It was something about, it's something about him. And people are talking about, like, we really haven't had a new, like, horror movie villain in a very, very long time. And, like, Art the Clown, especially, I think, with the recognition that Terrifier 2 is getting, the new movie, the sequel to it. And I think people are really, like, and it's getting really great reviews. I mean, he's a really, like, it's really scary. And it's not, and it's interesting because it's not just in, like, who he, like when he's, like, hunting people, right? Like, there's this whole scene in the movie Terrifier where he comes into this pizza restaurant where these two girls are eating so that they can kind of sober up before they can drive home. And he's, like, sitting there and he's watching them at this table. And this girl's, like, staring at him because he's, like, watching her. And he'll, like, watch her and he'll go like this and he'll go. And then she, like, turns back and he goes. But he's got, like, blackened out teeth. His teeth are, like, rotten. And his whole face is white. And he's got this pointed nose. And then, so he does, like, all these kind of, like, faces that are, like, very evil clown face. It's really super scary. Because you know that he's, like, mentally messing with these people, right? So anyway, yeah, it took me a second to, like, get up the nerve to go downstairs. So I went downstairs. And, I watched, I can't remember what I watched. I watched something before. Somebody's walking down my street. Who was it? They're talking really loud. I watched something before I watched Dragula. They're not paying any attention to me. And then, I think it was just like a YouTube video or something. And then I watched the second episode of Dragula, which was on last night. They put it out at midnight. And I watched the whole thing. And it was actually, like, it kind of started warming up a little bit. The rain stopped. And so, like, I sat out here. So I didn't have to wear my AirPods. It was like little bugs. It's supposed to be... I think my husband just texted me. Is this him coming in right now? No. My husband is on his way home from cycle bar. He did a cycle bar class tonight. Yeah, it's supposed to be, like, in the 70s this week, you guys. Like, it's not bad today. It's, like, probably 65 outside right now. Here, I'm gonna look right now. So I sat outside, and then I was like wide awake. And in fact, I looked at my phone, and it was like almost like, it was like 4 o'clock, and I was like wide awake, and I really wanted a Diet Coke, but I was like, if you have a Diet Coke now, you will never fall asleep. Even though I usually can have like caffeine like late, and it doesn't bother me, I feel like lately, yeah, I can't believe I guessed it. It's 65 exactly. And then tomorrow it's supposed to be 69. Thursday, I have a dentist appointment for a deep cleaning on Thursday morning. I'm not excited about that. 72. And then Friday is 73. And then Saturday, 78. Sunday, 65. Or Sunday, sorry, 68. Saturday, 68. Sunday, 65. Monday, 68. Tuesday, 72. It doesn't get cold again until next Thursday, and that's 57. Oh, and then it goes down into the 40s. Like the middle of November. The 15th and the 14th, 47 and 46. So the next week and a half is going to be really nice. Got my little coffee left over from brunch today. I have my little sleeve right here. Little unknown story. When Alex and I, like, one of the very first trips we ever took was to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And we had at the time been dating like 6 months. And we went with another friend of ours. And our friend that lives in Denver now. And he and his boyfriend came to visit us, like, I don't remember when that was. Almost probably a year ago. Anyway, they actually just got back from Sweden. They were like travel all over the place. But Alex and I were laying out by the pool and this one day, and we met this couple, and they were so nice. But they were like young. If I was like at the time, I would have been 36. They were like 40. They were just like a couple years older than me. And like I was asking the husband, I was like, so what do you do? And he's like, I'm retired. And I was like, oh, you're retired, you know, and whatever. He was like, yeah. And like, you could tell like they were like living high on the hog, and they were retired, and they were super nice people. And so I was trying to kind of figure out like what he did, you know, like be retired. And so he got up and left, and his wife told us, I can't remember how it came up, but anyway, we found out that he didn't invent, but he invented, like, not the original of this, but like one of these for like some kind of like gas station or Starbucks or something like that. He like came up with like the coffee sleeve kind of cup. He came up with a certain kind of one of these. Anyway, it's kind of like the Post-it story from Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. But I always think that that's interesting, you know? It's like you never know where, like, people, like, their money comes from. Like, I was talking to Caroline last night about, like, this woman that we know, and she, like, is married and whatever. And we hadn't talked about her in a long time. My husband's coming home. I can hear him right now. And the Amazon truck is coming down the street at the same time. And I said something to Caroline about... Oh, she said that they had just built this new house, and I said, and she was telling me about this house and whatever, and I said, what does her husband do? And like, he invented something that, Boo probably gets so excited when Alex gets home. He invented something that like, everybody needs. I can't even remember what it is now. It's something to do with landscaping, but it's like, everybody needs, but you would never think of it as like, something that somebody invented. Do you know what I mean? It's like a hose nozzle or something like that he was probably just sitting around messing with one night and then patented it and then like made a fortune off of it. There's a lot of like really wealthy people in Indiana that have money that way. Or I'll tell you the other thing is, and I think this is kind of like a Midwestern thing, there's a lot of people who are worth like not just like $1 million. I'm talking like millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, who like their families own like chain liquor stores, or they own like, you know, I don't know, like they own just, you know, Jiffy Lubes, or maybe they own like 20 Jiffy Lubes or something like that. My dad back in the day, hello? he had a friend of his. Hi. He had a friend of his, I think she has since passed on, but her husband owned trailer parks across the country. Like, you would never think, right? They were loaded. I mean, like, they had like a compound house that had like this gate and everything that went like way back in it. And I mean, unbelievable cars and trips, and they were so nice. They were just the most down to earth, salt of the earth people. And that he owned something like 100 trailer parks around the country or something like that. Anyway, money don't make you happy, but it sure can ease the pain for a while. Hey. In case you didn't hear my little pearls of wisdom, that was money don't make you happy, but it sure can ease the pain a little bit. I always think, like, if I won like some huge like lottery, like $1 billion or whatever, like, I don't know the rules on, like, I know that there's like, I've heard, you know, from friends of mine, like, you can give away so much money in a year. Like, I think you can give up to like, is it 10,000 or 100,000? I think it's like you can do so much of that. I know it's like, for a while, there were like, you know, people, when I would do these vlogs and whatever, people would be like, oh yeah, Peter's like a trust fund kid and blah, blah, blah. Nope, not this one. I don't know the rules with all of that, okay? I don't get those kind of like checks. I wish I did, but I don't. And when my dad, when I got sober, my dad just we had a conversation at that time that he wasn't going to give me money anymore. So a 20 here and a 20 there stopped when I was probably 23 years old, and has never been the case since. He helped me out when my mom passed away, and I have paid my dad back for everything he's ever given me or helped me with. But I have friends of mine, there's the UPS guy, woman, but I have friends of mine whose like parents give them like money for Christmas. I wish, I mean, I do, I'm sorry, I'm like, you know, and they're like, oh yeah, it's so nice, like, our parents give us, like, each of the kids, like, you know, they want us to have it now and enjoy it while they're still here. Like, and they give them, like, $5,000 or $10,000 each kid at Christmas. I'm like, that would be a nice Christmas present. Alex and I got matching sweaters from LL Bean. You know what I mean? Like, that would be a nice Christmas present. But I appreciate the sentiment, you know, it is what it is. So anyway... So yeah, so that's what I did last night, and then I watched the end. I hadn't finished the end of The Missing Kid. I thought I had, but I guess I had like 5 minutes left. The Missing Kid from Minnesota, the Unsolved Mysteries one. So I went back and I watched that, and then I went in and I hadn't finished watching the paranormal one. That was like the 5th episode. And then I noticed that they had put out the final 3 or 4 episodes on Unsolved Mysteries, so I'm going to watch those tonight. I was going to do my response to Shane Dawson's first part of his series today, but it is now really late, and he just put it up like an hour ago, and I started watching it. I am interested in it because he calls it the cancellation of Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star, so apparently they're going to talk about all of that, and I'm already getting tagged and all kinds of stuff and DM'd and whatever, but I kind of just want to watch it and like give my own, like, I really want to just give my response to it, like, in watching it and what I think about it and all this kind of stuff. So I'll probably watch that when I get done vlogging, and my ears are popping again. And then I'll watch the Unsolved Mysteries tonight. And then tomorrow I'll film my response to that. And I just filmed Crumble Cookies review. So Caroline came and picked me up today. I went to bed late last night. And so, of course, I woke up today and I was so tired. I walked out to Caroline's car. I was sitting out here waiting for her when she pulled up. And I walked to her car and she goes, have you been crying? And I go, girl, I woke up about 40 minutes ago and got Boo out and took him outside. And I've been like rushing to get ready. And, she was like, okay. And she had texted me. She was like, I'm really hungry. Can we go get something to eat before we run errands? I didn't really have a lot of errands to run today. So I was like, I really just needed to go to Crumble Cookies. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. So I said, but can we try somewhere new? And so she had suggested this place to me in Fishers, Indiana, which is called Mornings. Fishers is where my friend Tanya lives. And I used to live in Fishers. And so it's called Mornings. It's like a breakfast it says breakfast, mornings, breakfast and brunch. It's in this strip mall in Fishers. They have mimosa floats there. So we went there, not for the mimosa floats because I don't drink, but we went there, and the girl that waited us, or that seated us, she was like, the food here is really, really good. You guys are going to love it and whatever. And I sat down and I started looking at the menu. Well, what I did like was they had like several different options for coffees, and I got an Americano. I think I got an Americano, or I can't remember. It's like Americano, cappuccino, a black eye, a red eye. They have like Black Widow was one of the, I'd never heard of that coffee before. But anyway, it was like 5 shots or something. I was like, okay, we don't need all that. But I can't remember the thing I started with, either an Americano or a black eye. And then I ended up getting just a regular coffee because after that, because she said that you don't get refills on that because it's like a, a special coffee. It was like I can't, special is like a regular coffee with a shot of espresso. I think that's a black eye, isn't it? So anyway, Americano is what I usually get. And then Caroline got a Diet Coke, and it was cute. The restaurant was real cute. Their dishes were really cute. They had this glassware that was like, it looked like blown glass. It was adorable. And then my mug that the coffee came in was like, it looked like somebody had made it, and it was really, really fun. And like this clay mug, and it came with like a cup and saucer kind of thing. And then they just walked around here once. They're walking around here again. And then Caroline got the Ranchos. I can never remember what these are called. Anyway, something Rancheros. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? They have it at like every breakfast restaurant. She got those. She was going to either get that or a Reuben, and so she got that. And it came with hash browns. Hash browns, which I've been dying for, right? And then they didn't really have that many options. They had like a vegetarian omelet, but it had like mushrooms and broccoli in it. And I was like, no, thank you, ma'am. Like, that is disgusting. I don't want broccoli. Broccoli does not belong in an omelet. And I'm sorry if you're somebody out there that loves broccoli in an omelet and I've just offended you, but I cannot do broccoli in an omelet. The other thing I can't do is, like, Alex and I, there's this restaurant here that I love. It's called Verde. This Mexican restaurant, which now I love. But the very first time that we ever went there, we went with one of his friends. And I got the vegetarian burrito. And it was like the same thing. It was like pico de gallo, but then it was like broccoli. It was like vegetables like that don't belong in a burrito or an omelet. I'm sorry, they just don't. So yeah, so had our brunch there. The hash browns were fantastic. So I got this vegetable frittata, and it was like eggs and tomato and green peppers and onions, and then it had hash browns actually and potatoes actually in it. It was like real flat like a pizza, but it was all around the plate. Oh my god, it was so good. I only finished like half of it. I put it up on my Instagram story if you guys want to see what it looks like. Just go over to my Instagram story and you can see it. It'll still be up there. It was so delicious. And Caroline loved whatever she had too. And the hash browns were unbelievable. And then we had a really nice talk today. Caroline and I were talking about like our parents and like when your parents pass away and feeling like orphaned. Like, I was asking her like if she feels different having lost both of her parents versus losing one of her parents. Because I remember when my grandma died, my mom said that she felt orphaned. And Caroline was telling me about this family friend of ours that like when she saw her after her dad died, that she said to Caroline, she said, well, you're an orphan now. And Caroline had never like thought of it that way. And somebody's cooking out or something. I can smell it. It smells good. And we were talking about just like our parents and like the meals they cooked. I was asking her, I was like, well, what were, because I always think of my Aunt Kathy being like such a great cook. And Caroline was like, my mom really wasn't that great of a cook. Like, she was like, Mike always said that he had to add like salt and pepper to everything and whatever. I remember my aunt being a pretty good cook. And so we were talking about like our favorite meals that our parents made and things like that. And Caroline said, she goes, now my mom could set a table And she could, like, I mean, for Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter or whatever, I mean, it's like my aunt's tables just looked absolutely beautiful. She could do flower arrangements. She should have worked in a flower store like nobody's business. Both of our moms had worked at Blocks. I don't know if you guys know what Blocks is, but I think it later was, well, it turned into Federated Stores bought it. So it was like Blocks and then it was Ayers. And I think it was Blocks and then it was Ayers, but my mom worked at both of them. My mom worked so much retail. She either taught in schools or she worked retail. And when my mom and my aunt were in college, they, like, during Christmas holidays, like, they would work in the gift wrapping area. So when they were off, like, for the month of school, they would work at Blocks gift wrapping. And so both of our mothers could, like, wrap presents, like, unbelievably with, like, bows. And I mean, the bows that my mother could do were, like, I mean, they were, like, unbelievable. But I mean, bows like this big bows. And my mom had a wrapping station, actually, like our walk-in closet in our bathroom now. When my mom passed away, she had this big, like, butcher block table in there, and it was like her wrapping station. And she had, like, reams of, like, bows and, like, tape and, you know, scissors and wrapping paper and stuff like that. And that's where she wrapped all of her presents. It was in there. It was her wrapping station. And my aunt had hers down in her basement. And for, like, Christmas, what she would do is, and my aunt, because she went to so many open houses and she was so involved and she was president of Junior League and she did all this kind of stuff, she, you know, would have 50 presents or 100 presents underneath her Christmas tree. And so she would buy 2 different kinds of, like, matching wrapping paper. I remember one year she bought, like, blue with, like, the really little white dots of blue, like, it was, and it wasn't naturally always, like, Christmas paper. And then she had, like, I don't know, like, gold or something. And what she would do is she would buy these huge reams of it, and then she would have it on, like, a ream holder in her basement over her table, so she could pull it, and then she could do the cutting thing, you know, so she could just cut it real evenly. My aunt could, I mean, wrap a present like nobody's business. So we were talking about, we weren't talking about wrapping presents, but we were talking about meals that they made and missing them. And I said to Caroline, I said, you know, like, it's interesting because, like, grief is such an interesting thing because it happens at its own pace, and it sometimes speeds up and slows down. So, like, you don't know, like, I can sit here and I can say, like, today, I don't really miss my mom much. But then 2 days from now, I can be like, oh my God, I miss my mom so much today, and be, like, bawling my eyes out. There's no rhyme or reason to it whatsoever. And, you know, after 14 years, I have to say, every day, something happens that reminds me of my mom. Every single day. By the way, I just want to say, as it gets darker, I want to, again, thank everybody for saying they don't care about the light out here. I really appreciate that. It really means a lot to me. It's just, one of the things is with it getting darker, unless I turn, and even when I turn the light on, it makes it harder for me to see the camera. So, like, right now, like, my face and the camera, to me, is very fuzzy. And so I can't see, like, if it's clear or if it's out of focus or whatever, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You guys don't care. But, you know, like, every day, something happens that makes me think of my mom. A song comes on, you know, not on the radio because I don't play the radio, but, like, a song will come on, you know, if I'm, like, listening to music, or something will come on, like, on a TV show, a song will come on, or a movie will come on, or I'll see something on YouTube, like, you know, somebody winning an Oscar, or, like, because I look at, I watch a lot of those Oscar-winning things, and so that will remind me of my mom. It's just something every single day. I mean, I live in the condo that my mom used to live in, right? So, just even that. But it's not like I, like, think about her and then I'm like, oh, Mom. I mean, it's not like that anymore, right? It's kind of like I just think of my mom and then I kind of, like, move on. After 14 years, I don't think about her much anymore. I really don't, you know? And I think, like, the first year and a half doing my vlog, where I told all the stories and I cried my eyes out, and I still did years later too, you know, but I told all of the things that I had to say on here. It's like, I really think I mourned my mother a lot on my vlog, like the first year that I was on here, and it was really, really cathartic and healthy for me in a way that I had never really done before, because I didn't really have anybody to do that to, you know? And then in therapy, I, you know, talked a lot about it, and, okay, it stopped. You know, grief is not something that is like highly covered in the 12 steps, so it's not like it's, I would talk to my sponsor, you know, about grieving or missing my mom, but it's not like you work steps over it. I mean, that's, that's what we call, you need outside help for that, which is seeing a therapist or a counselor or a life coach or something like that, you know, or talk counselor or talk therapist for. So when I got into counseling and I started talking to him, you know, about missing my mom and things like that, like that's when I feel like I started to really heal a lot, you know, from it. And I think one of the things that came as a result was recognizing that my mom and I had worked very, very hard at making sure, even long before she was sick, long before she was sick, at making sure that nothing was unsaid. And that, you know, there's a lot of family secrets out there that I would really like to know the answers to, as far as like my grandmother and all that kind of stuff. My, you know, mom and my aunt being in foster care and whatever. If my mom had lived to be 85, she was never going to tell me that. That's just the truth. I know that, right? Like, whatever reasons my mom had for not telling me those things, those were her reasons, you know? And it was interesting because I was talking to Tanya one time, and I said something, we were talking about that in regards to her son, Nick. And I said, but don't you think that, like, Nick deserves to know, like, if you were gone tomorrow, to have, like, the answers to those things? And she goes, absolutely not. She goes, I have my own life, and so does he. And she goes, and there are certain things that have happened in my life that I don't feel like my son deserves to know. Like, no, not at all. And she was like, you know, your mom had her reasons for keeping the things that she kept to herself, you know? And I think that really helped a lot for me. I don't know, I'm sure there are people out there that feel differently about that. It is what it is. But it got really dark really quick. Like, Alex and I were talking about that last night, like how quickly it's getting dark these days. But, you know, other than those big family secrets, which were huge, you know, and then that feeds into, like, trust. And what else was she not telling me, and things like that. Okay, all of that. But, like, other than that, like, as far as how we felt about each other and loved each other and whatever, and amends we needed to make for how we had treated each other in the past, that had already been said and done. That was the lesson that I took from that, you know, was that all of that, like, I know that my mother died knowing I loved her. And I know that she loved me unconditionally, you know. And there's something about, and I know a lot of people don't have relationships with their mother, but I'm just talking about my relationship with my mother. You know, my mother was a mother bear, you know, there were, I don't know, I miss her wisdom, and I miss, like, my mom didn't have a hard time challenging me on things and seeing it as a learning opportunity. I miss that, you know, sometimes. But like I was saying to Caroline today, it's like, do you ever, like, just, oh, the moon is out already, it looks so pretty. Like, do you ever just kind of, like, want to get past the point of just, like, not, like, thinking about it, like, all the time, or, like, every day that it comes up, or whatever, whenever it comes up? And Caroline's like, oh yeah, all the time, you know? And I don't know, like, I definitely don't, like, people ask me about, I get questions and emails and stuff about grieving all the time. And people are like, when does it start getting easier? I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I think it's different for each and every single person out there. I definitely think that, like, let it take its time, you know, and let it move at its own rate. It's not that I don't miss my mom. It's just that she's been gone for a long time, you know? I mean, it feels like Alex and I have been together forever, and she's been gone the whole time, you know? And so, I mean, she's been gone longer than I was in kindergarten through high school. You know what I mean? That's a long time. And when you start looking at the world in ways like that, and you start getting older, and you start segmenting your life into periods of your life, like, okay, this and this and this, you know? And then she's been gone for, like, many important things that have happened in my life. It's like, well, I don't know, you know? But like I said, the lesson that I've taken from it is I don't anymore let things be left unsaid. You know, with my dad and my stepmom, I've said the things I need to say. You know, with friends of mine in my life, I've said the things I need to say. Like, with other family members, I've said the things I need to say. Like, I don't want people to ever, you know, like, if something should happen, you know, to me or to them, for us to wonder, you know, like, I think that happens often where it's like, hi, where people, you know, they're like, if I had just said this, or if I had just, well, I think that's more that comes along with, like, other certain situations I'm not going to get into today, but, like, I think if you just let the people know in your life that you love them, you know, that's why I say at the end of my videos, you know, reach out to somebody and let them know how much they mean to you. I think this is going to sound corny, but, like, speaking of, like, love languages, I love talking about love languages, but but not as speaking as, like, a love language, but, like, if you speak with the language of love and letting the people in your life know that you love them and you care about them, right? And you're there for them. I think grieving is easier when then those people are gone. You know, I don't think, like, I miss my mom. Like, Caroline and I were both talking about this today. Like, I miss my mom, but, like, I would not want her to suffer. You know, I really just, like, I have so many friends of mine right now whose parents are at that age where they're, like, in assisted living programs, and they have dementia and Alzheimer's, and they're struggling, and it's like, I mean, it breaks my heart to hear the stories, you know? And I have so many friends of mine whose parents are, like, terminally ill, and they go through all this stuff, and it's like, I don't know, like, it's weird for me sometimes, you know, because my mom was 64 when she passed away. And whenever I tell people like that, because, like, whenever I talk to my mother-in-law, you know, she's still younger than that, but, you know, she's like, God, that was so young. And I think about my mother-in-law, you know, and she travels here and she travels there, and she's getting ready to go to Chile, and, you know, she has so much fun, and she's, you know, always being social and whatever. And, you know, like, she showed up last night, and she was like, boo, and she's so fun and everything, you know. And I think, like, even at 64, my mom, like, had aged more than that. Like, she struggled being still that young spirit, you know? Like, she was inside, but I think physically she was already starting. That's one of the things I worry about. That's why I'm like, Peter, you got to get your health together, because, you know, with losing more weight and starting to work out and be active and whatever, because, you know, like, there are things I want to do in this world. And, but my mother-in-law, she's often like, you know, gosh, she was like, your mother passed so young. And I think 64 is really young, you know? It really is. I sometimes wonder what my mom would be like today. She'd be turning 79. I think about that. I think that's crazy, you know, that my mom would be turning 79. It's crazy to me that my dad is 82 and that my mom would be 79. I can't even really fathom, you know. I guess like, and this is where I start getting teared up when I think about the fact that, like, I was like, has it been 14 years or has it been 15 years? It'll be 15 years that she's been gone. But I start thinking about that and I think she's been gone for a really long time. Like, 15 years is a long time, really long time, you know? And, like, I'll never forget my mom. She's my mom. She was my mom, and she'll always be my mom, and I'll love her, you know, and I'll always remember everything, you know, and all the stories, and tell the stories, and whatever, you know, because that's who I am. But at some point, too, it's like, you got to move on, you know? And she would want that. You know, she wouldn't want me to stay stuck 15 years ago. I think that's the thing, like when people reach out to me and they're like, I just can't move on, I just can't move past this. And I'm like, well, we never, like, I was taught this, like, by a friend of mine. You never move on, you move through it. And you carry the memories and you carry the pain, but you move through the pain to the other side, you know? And you remember them for the rest of your life. But I think maybe not so deeply. I think, you know, over time, the healing process takes over. And I think, I don't know, I just said we have to move on. And I don't believe that. I believe we move through it, you know. So, we move through. I think it's weird when you look at life, and life is kind of like this collection of, like, as you're going through life, it's like things that happened to us in the past, and we're responding to it as things are happening to us right now that we're going to respond to in our past. Or that we're going to respond to when those things that are happening to us right now are in the past. You know what I mean? Isn't that weird? It's very convoluted. It's very confusing. I'm very confused. Anyway, all right, you guys, I'm going to get off here. It is so dark. Thank you for hanging out with me. Happy November 1st. I hope that you guys are having a magically amazing Wednesday. Is today Wednesday? No, it's Tuesday. I hope that you're having a magically amazing Tuesday. If nobody else has told you this today, I love you. Remember these 3 very important things. 1, you can start your day over whenever you want. 2, practice random acts of kindness, but don't tell anyone. Shh. And 3, most important, practice random acts of kindness, but shh, don't tell anyone. And 3, most importantly, make sure that you reach out to somebody and let them know how much they mean to you. It can really change their whole direction of their day, change their day, and make them, don't you want to change your day and make them happy? And yeah, and also be kinder to one another, love one another a little bit more, and be kinder and love yourself a little bit more. And I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya.